Good evening, friends, and welcome to a late night edition of Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed Wallace. Tonight, I have my partner in crime, Amazing Aunt, retired NYPD sergeant. We are going to be covering the University of Idaho murders, shocking 911 audio call. This is going to be the breakdown. And listen, friends, there's been so much talk on the internet. Is this AI? Is it real? I have done my due diligence. I went and checked with multiple sources, and the multiple sources were a combination of contacting Moscow PD, the courts in Ada County, and also our great friend Brian Enton, senior national news correspondent from News Nation. I had an actual text conversation and phone conversation with Brian Enton, who told me that he FOIA request. He made the open records request, and I 110% trust his news credibility, his ethics. So this, in fact, for those of you who are looking, because Amazing Aunt, I received probably close to 50 messages today on social media, Dutyron.com, all across all the platforms, with people who thought this was a fake release of a 911 call. It's not. And I'm going to say quickly, you had the opportunity to listen to it, because the reason I asked you to listen to it is because you're a former EMT, right? You work for New York.
I still am.
You still are, but I'm just saying, you did that for a job, and you know what it's like when someone's in shock, who is suffering from seeing a traumatic scene, as what we're going to hear on this 911 call. I know many of you have heard it, but these are young college students. These are young adults, right? 20 years old-ish, who saw a very, very bad thing, and you're going to hear them on a 911 call. So if you suffer from any PTSD or any type of, anything that would be, this is your official this is your official notification. If you suffer from PTSD, if you don't like to hear this type of stuff, maybe tune out and come back in about 10 minutes. But quickly, I also want to say thank you to the replay viewers, the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the moderators. You guys are what makes this a great place. And again, I wanted, thank you, Dawn Marie, for the trigger warning. I wanted to talk with you guys about this because there's so many people dissecting this thing and talking about it, and again, a lot of misinformation out there. And before I went live and wanted to bring this to you guys, I felt it was necessary to do that due diligence and make sure that it in fact was real and not something that was created by AI. So by a show of hands in the chat, how many of you have seen or heard this video? Actually, there's nothing to see. It's just that anybody hear this video, put a 1 if you've heard it. If you haven't heard it, press a 2. Amazing Aunt, I don't want you to break it down, but I want you to just go over an overview. You got to listen to this call. Your take as a professional retired NYPD sergeant and an EMT, just a little bit of what your take was initially from listening to the 911 call.
Well, I'm giving people time to hop off. I think that any human, when you hear it, it is a trigger. It bothered me. It shocked me to hear how it was handled from a patrol point of view. We will discuss that. I love all your questions. In the background, you're going to see a police car. It's actually my car that I worked at in the Bronx and in the South Bronx, and where Duty worked, were the two most violent areas. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, Dutyron and I are professionals and experienced in seeing people witness murder and shock. And listening to this call reminded me of that era when I would be in this car running out to people in shock. You have a victim or someone potentially homicide victim, and then you have other victims, the people who witnessed the crime scene, and we're going to break that down tonight.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for that, Amazing Aunt. And without further ado, I want to just jump into this. And what we're going to do is afterwards, we're going to talk a little bit about what we just heard and take some calls and take some questions from the audience. Your questions matter to us. I see a lot of number ones. I see some number twos in the chat. It looks like a majority of the audience has heard this, but you're going to get a professional breakdown from the retired NYPD's perspective, retired NYPD sergeant's perspective, and also she was and she still is a EMT. She corrected me when I said you were. She still is an EMT. All right, Sarge, let's jump right into it. Here's the call. And again, if you suffer from PTSD, if you're not interested in hearing this stuff, just tune out. It's 4 minutes long, and we'll get right back to you. And again, we're going to be hearing from multiple people. The phone's going to be passed around, but the man that you hear on, the young man that you hear on there is Hunter, which is Xana and Ethan. Well, it's Ethan's best friend. There was some information, and some people were saying that it was Ethan's brother. This is a Hunter who you're going to hear on the phone in extreme dire distress. So let's listen to it in its entirety, and we'll be right back with you.
11:55 a.m. 42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. It's happening in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, King Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, Bethany, we gotta go check. But we have to. Is he passed out? What's wrong? He's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You talk to them, say. I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Okay. Hello.
Okay. I have already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have. I can see it. Did you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since she's there with you and can help you.
Okay.
All right. So that was, again, there was a lot going on there. There was a lot of things that were said. There was a lot of things like, get out, get out, get out. A couple of things come to my mind, but I wanted to go to you first, Amazing Aunt, because we know that, the dispatcher's job is to get the info for responding officers and for the EMTs and or paramedics. That is their sole purpose, is to get valid data so the responders know what they're responding to. And a lot of people got upset that the dispatcher seemed like she was cold and callous and cut them off. I want you to, as a sergeant, to talk a little bit about the importance of that and any of your takeaways from this, and I'll give you mine after.
Thank you. I can only give 50% feedback because I don't hear the whole, as we say in police world, job, radio call, job, right? The dispatcher, in my opinion, Darlene Wolf, is in the chat, and I'd love to get her feedback. She's former dispatch for EMS. She chatted that a few minutes ago, so I would love for her to chime in at some point. In my opinion, the dispatcher spoke more than she needed to. I know what she meant about passing the phone around. That wasn't necessary. She's making assumptions. She should have said, I need to speak to one person. She made comments about the defibrillator. I think maybe she thought they were in a dorm. And then when the police officer came, she should have verified. So in New York City, we go over the police radio. Let's pretend my cell phone's a radio. We go over and we tell Central Radio, but we call it Central. We say Central, we're 84. That's a code for we're here. Once Central verifies with us that we're with the complainant and we're talking with the complainant, then they'll log off and they'll tell the victim. I didn't get that. That's a technicality. But for the shock that was going on, when she asked about the defibrillator, I think we waited too long to get to that question. She asked about the breathing.
I don't like to interrupt, but I want to say at the end of this call, she asked about that defibrillator, and you could hear her asking the police officer, and then the dispatcher said, "Oh, you're with an officer? I'm going to cut this off now," because she knew that there was a officer there. So her job was done at that point once first responders get there.
I don't think so. No, the supervisor, first of all, in a scene like this, I would be there with with the police officers I work with. We would go and verify with the Central Radio. Sometimes I'd even grab the phone from the victim when they're in that much shock.
Yeah,
to give the victim a little assurance, like, hey, ma'am, I got the phone. I tell them, hey, even though they know I'm there, victims need to see professionals be professional and take control of the scene. And I think that the victims did too much of the police work.
Yeah. I want to listen to it again slowly because it is only 4 minutes.
Okay.
I want to do it with the closed captions on. But there's a lot of people in the chat. Everybody has their opinion, and we respect everyone's opinion. Some people think that the dispatcher did good. Some people think the dispatcher did not good. But she definitely did cut her off from. She wanted to tell her what she saw, and I think one of the important parts that I take away from this is that had the complainant on the line, and had she made a statement that Dylan said, well, or Bethany said, oh, I saw bushy eyebrows, I saw a man wearing all black, they wouldn't have been able to release this because it would have been something they would use at trial. What this is going to be used as a timeline of events. They're going to start with the first responding officer, but this 911 call is when everything gets the whole thing started at 1122 King Road. This 911 call is going to be presented in court, and the defense is not going to object to it because it talks about the timeline. It sets that timeline up. So there was no description of the defendant in this, no talk about the bushy eyebrows in this call. Yes, it was stated in her statements that she made to detectives on 4 different occasions. But let's listen to it with the closed captions because I didn't start it with the closed captions, and we'll start. We'll put it on, and anytime you want me to stop it, let me know, and we can make, we could do an analysis that way.
Emergency.
Something is happening. Something's happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1 month.
See, so probably right there, people will get upset with that because she said something happened in her house and we don't know what. she didn't say, "Oh, what happened?" She wanted to get that address because
Location is important.
without the location, she can't dispatch emergency responders for help.
I'm fine with that. You're fine with that, right?
I'm good with it, but I saw somebody make a mention about it, that
I
she
gotta
was
look.
rude and cut her off. But let's let the rest of it go.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
Did you pause it?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
No, it was intentionally.
They took it out. Okay, so
They
they
redacted the phone call. So this
I figured they would say redacted.
100,000 people on the internet would be calling that number, and maybe the number's still in service, maybe it's not, maybe somebody else has it now. This is from
redacted. Just saying.
Yeah, they didn't put it. They just blanked it out. Cindy Holenbeck, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Ed Wallace in the chat, probably in bed because he was traveling. Ed Wallace says the dispatcher's job is to prioritize the emergency. Yes, absolutely. She was told that they had an unconscious female, and that is her priority, not what happened at 4 a.m. The investigators will get those details. Exactly. Her job, as we stated, Ed, and everybody in the chat, is to get that location first and foremost, because without the location, you can't be any help. And they didn't have the 911 trace like what we have here in the city. Right. This is Moscow, Idaho. This is Latah County, off-campus home. I don't think they have that 911 system where they can get your address when you make that call, and especially from a cell phone. Thank you for being here, Ed. I know you're exhausted. He's traveled home from Utah. So let's listen to the rest of it.
One of the roommates is passed
So this is the neighbor from next door.
out, and she was drunk last night and it's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone
right there, she tried again to say, "Can I just tell you what happened?"
Pretty much, yeah.
She just shut her down because she wants to know what she's got there.
passed out right now?
I don't really know.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, Bethany, we gotta go check. But we have to.
Come on, we got to go check. And then whoever was right there next to her said, "No, I don't want to, but we have to." Is she passed out?
She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
That was good.
So she's now seeing this male who is Hunter in front of her, and she's seeing the shocking look on his face. And heard her say, what's wrong?" You know? So, I mean, this is what's happening in real time in front of her right now, and we're hearing the actual raw human emotion because she sees the shocking look on his face.
By the way, dispatch.
Go ahead.
dispatch was correct, and I like this part that I missed earlier. Credit to dispatch, where she said, now we'll get started that way. Once she established that the patient is unconscious, we don't know murdered, we don't know anything, she said we'll get started that way. She's very exacting.
Yeah. Grateful 1509 says her breathing breaks my heart.
We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about that. Yep.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
So did you catch the male saying, get out, get out, get out?
Yeah. He didn't want anyone to see it.
Mm-hmm. Just going to go back to that.
Okay, and how old is she?
Yeah, I'd imagine he went up the stairs they were down on that first floor, landing in outside or in that doorway leading into the front of the residence.
Wow.
And he went up when she said, you got to go check. And he saw what he saw and said, no, get out. You got to get out, because you hear the urgency in his voice right there. Princess Mitch says, yeah, he saw it. He saw and said, get out. Yeah, 100%.
20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one. Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, when I first initially listened to this and I heard that male voice say hello twice, after she explained to him, stop passing the phone around, it made me scratch my head because it didn't sound natural. But again, nothing about this is natural. This is a situation that is hectic. It's, high stress level, shocking. These people have never seen anything like this, or this person has never seen anything like it. So nothing about this is going to be routine or normal. So let's listen to the rest.
You talk to them, Shay. I can't talk to them. They need you to talk to them.
Hello.
Okay. I have already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have it. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since she's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
People even had a problem with her saying, okay, thank you, bye. Maybe she's a polite person. Maybe she was raised right to say thank you. Again, in these moments, and you could talk more about how people react when they're in shock. When you're put in a position like this, and I've been to many crime scenes where there's multiple people murdered by either stab wound, gunshot, many different crime scenes. And it's never, even in some of the roughest neighborhoods where crime was running rampant and there was shootings all the time. We had 2,200 murders in 1991 when I became a cop. And we handled, I think, around 280, 300 murders in a year in 1991 in the 7375 precinct. So like we were around people who were used to this, and even when that would happen, they in higher crime neighborhoods, people would freak out. Talk a little bit about Amazing Aunt, about the demeanor of somebody like this, what we heard here, what we were listening to. What was your take on what was happening? And my first words come to my mind is hectic, chaotic, frantic.
Shocking. What was the gentleman's name again? Dennis? No.
Hunter.
I keep calling him Dennis. I'm sorry. When he said she's not breathing, I probably would have followed up and say, did you check her pulse or find out more as an EMT? Once we find out someone is not breathing, they in New York City, they also have an EMS dispatch, and Darlene would know this. So EMS is then brought into the phone call, and they want to know, well, if they're not breathing, are they bleeding? What position are they in? So I think that for this radio run, it would have helped for life-saving measures to get a little bit more info. He was very calm when he said she's not breathing. That means he checked, and that means he was touching her. And Ed could speak more about that in terms of forensics, and that happens a lot, right? Victims are touched by other people, right? So it's going to happen. But with the shock involved, I've seen shock when it wasn't a murder that was just as bad as a murder shock, any death, but especially people who have been dead for a few days or a few weeks in an apartment. Whoever finds that person usually sounds like this phone call with the breathing. The breathing really, I felt it took my breath away. I don't get used to that when you see someone, you've seen this. You show up to a job, a call, the family comes out, and you have that one person they can't even talk. They can't even, and I think for me as an EMT first, I've been doing this since I was 18, seeing that person already gives me an idea of the magnitude, so that when I go in there, I'm actually more prepared to handle that job. I already know when I see someone breathing like that or in that kind of shock, I already know there's going to be massive blood loss. There's going to be CPR that's not going to work because ends of life is ends of life. But so everyone knows, we still in New York City, I'm speaking solely as an EMT in New York City, we still take life-saving measures unless it was someone who has passed away for several days and has rigor mortis. But we still take life-saving measures. And just so you all know, I'll have Dutyron post the article. There's a New York Times article from Hurricane Sandy, October 29th, 2012. It was the only death for Hurricane Sandy that was a homicide. And I was the patrol cop who worked it. And I showed up to a male unconscious in the street, and the neighbor called, and it was raining and windy, and he was killed by hand. He was beat up so bad he had no face. He had like a pulse of 6. So I legally could have declared him dead because he was already dying within 5 seconds. He was just dead. But we did CPR for 2 reasons. Obviously, to give him that chance to get to the hospital to be pronounced. And the weather was bad, and there was no way for a human person to be in the street dead if we can avoid it. So I always made a practice as a cop or EMT, get the person, I don't like saying body because we're humans, get the human out of there to a hospital and let a doctor, let a professional pronounce and let them die in a dignified way. This situation was tragic. I think when patrol showed up, I would have liked to hear more, but we have to wait for the next radio call. I want to hear the sergeant, the patrol officers go on the radio and explain what they saw, because they're going to do that in court. Is that going to be admissible, Dutyron?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm sending a link to Oblivious Benson because I want her to join us too.
Okay, let me see Ed Wallace.
Yeah. So yeah, Ed's just putting up a comment. I've seen I've seen just these reactions by college kids before. The world they live in while in college doesn't prepare them for anything like this. They don't think about such horrific acts. Exactly, Ed. Yeah, it's difficult at best. But I wanted to circle back to another point that was circling around about this being fake, and it was a AI, and this was a prepared thing. And like some people in the chat were saying, "Oh, you know, I don't think that this is real. I think this is all staged and so forth." I want to go to Twitter, and my good friend Brian Enton, I had a text string with him. He posted 3 hours ago. This is the full 911 call from the Bryan Kohberger case, the day the University of Idaho students were found, one of their friends unconscious. And then he says 3 hours ago, I know there has been questions online about the authenticity of the calls released. I can verify I received this from the 911 dispatch center. It is confirmed. And then again here, he opens up with, the call was not leaked. It was released because of a public records request many in the media filed, including me. Now, I know this is hard to see because the screen, even for me looking at it, is small, but you should just go over to Bryan Enton's Twitter X account and you could read about all of this stuff. And Bryan Enton went one step further. Like I said, I texted with him, and I just want to read some of the texts that I had with him. And Bryan and I, you know, we exchange cell phone numbers because he's been a guest on my show. He's been on several times with Ed Wallace and myself. So I basically said to Bryan, let me just take off this. I said, hey, Bryan, long time no speak because we haven't spoken in a while. It's Dutyron. I hope all is well. I hope you can clear up this 911 audio nightmare that's spreading online. Ashley Banfield did a show last night and it was removed from News Nation. I know you wouldn't do a story if it wasn't legit. Open records request for the audio. Can you confirm with me? I wanted to do some coverage on this, but I wanted to also do some due diligence. Thanks in advance. I appreciate you. And he says, hey, Ron, I don't know about Ash. He was referring to Ashley Banfield. But I put in personally myself public records request and got the call back on this from the 911 center. I got it through a public records request. The center is actually in Pullman, Washington. So that's where he got it from. And it's called WOTCOM, and it's spelled Whitcom, WHITCOM, and that's the communication center. And I have the actual request here, and they responded March 14th, which is today, 2025, with the attachment of the 911 call. So for everybody that's out there saying it's AI and that it's fake and accusing and pointing fingers at people, I also saw this on World News Tonight with David Muir. So World News Tonight, David Muir posted this. It's all over the major networks. And I guess, you know, quite a few people were doubting Thomas's on this stuff. Our own Kristen, who's the producer behind the scenes, called the court in Ada County Courthouse, and they weren't aware that this was released. So as we could talk about with the NYPD and interagencies where we're not talking with each other, like corrections doesn't talk to NYPD sometimes doesn't communicate with fire. Well, I'm talking about admin stuff. So people were not in the loop on this, including the Ada County Courthouse as of today. But you could bet your bottom dollar that they know about it now. And it was released by the WOTCOM, the Whitcom, however it's pronounced, in Pullman, Washington. It was officially released to the news media and other outlets or anybody who requested it. And I want to just put that to bed because that's the story. And that's how it happened. Let's go to some of the people in the chat. Hashtag, should we just do hashtag ANT? Is that easier?
Sure, you can say Ant.
Hashtag
My
Ant.
friends call me Ant. Everyone here is a friend.
Hashtag Ant, hashtag Dutyron with your questions. And we got Oblivious Benson.
I have a question when you're ready.
Wait, who's a snooper duper on steroids. And I love her. She's a good friend, and she's been checking in with me with the cancer thing like weekly. She was like, Uncle Dutyron, we want updates and we want them now. My kids are going crazy because they want to know about you. All right, what's the question? Amazing.
I got to write these things down. Oh, the time to release the call, you think it's convenient because of the year of the trial, or you think they held it with a FOIA request, or just coincidence?
I believe that 6 days ago, the transcripts of this audio was released along with text messages. Now, this show's not about those text messages. We're not going to get into the text messages, but I believe that the cat was out of the bag. and no pun to our next friend, Kat, who's coming on. The cat was out of the bag, and they just said, you know what? This is not going to hurt the trial, the integrity of the trial. It's not going to be hurtful if a potential juror hears this because it's a 911 call. There's no description in it. There's no bushy eyebrow talk.
Right.
Yes, that bushy eyebrow talk was in interviews, and that is all of what they're going to have to testify to at trial. And they're not making testimony on this 911 call at all. This is a frantic call. That's the heat of the moment. That shows the excitement and the horror and the sheer terror in all of the people who passed that phone around, with the exception of the female that was next door. She was about the only one that was calm, and then that second male voice at the end. But let's bring in Oblivious Benson, because I think she's got a lot to put into this, and I know she did a show, and it was probably intertwined into multiple different things, but I'm sure she spoke about this tonight. OB, what's happening?
Hello. First of all, hello, amazing aunt. I love when you're on.
I
You
love
guys
when you're
made me
on.
cry. Last time you were on, it made me cry. I think it was 9/11. I just remember. I think it was. It was, or no, it was the cancer one.
The cancer yesterday night.
Oh, well, I'm talking about when it made me cry. I haven't seen last night. I saw the announcement, and then I was like, I have him on my list to listen to that today, though. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy, Dutyron.
Yes, thank you. Oblivious Benson, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. People initially, when this first broke, I think last night, it was on Banfield, and then she took it down. There was an unscrupulous jagaloon that was on with her, who we won't mention here, and not really a fan of that person.
Who released it first?
Yes.
Who released a portion, and I have a theory.
Yeah, it makes people sus. But again, I went for more so, I wasn't really paying attention to that stuff, but what I was wanting to get is, was this officially released by authorities? And I got clarity of that tonight.
You froze.
Side. My main thing was to make sure that this was actually released by officials, and it was. So
okay, good, because I was concerned. We talked about it on my channel. My concern was a couple of people reached out to me and said, essentially, exact words, yo, I think that they accidentally gave this to someone, and now this person has it, and they weren't meant to. And I said, why? And they told me, because I requested it. So this other person requested it a long time ago, and they were rejected. So they thought it was odd that the Jagaloon had it.
Right.
Because they got rejected. Why would he have it? And then I noticed said Jagaloon only played a portion because I guess waiting for bigger news outlets. And to me that signified, could that be what happened? So I personally was waiting to get confirmation that this was real and not another situation where someone created something. And B, not under seal and okay to go out. And so once I saw quite a few people, especially the news channels, were sharing it, and then looked at some of the data available embedded within it, it's like, okay, well, this looks authentic. I'm really glad they released it, though, because I think it shuts up a lot of people that were taking things out on the girls and drawing conclusions about the girls. I saw a lot of people saying horrible things, questioning why aren't they crying? Because it's a transcript. Yeah.
There's a lot of nasty people on the internet, and we know that the internet is a very toxic place, and you have to have a thick skin if you're on the internet. But at the end of the day, when it's pertaining and pointed at potential people who were inside a home where 4 people were murdered by a knife, brutal, bloody scene. We showed the outside of that home with the blood dripping out of the foundation. Ed Wallace, our crime scene, a CSI DNA expert, Ed did a super duper analysis on that. He went as far as getting the buildings records, and debunking the whole that's an oil line for the oil burner. It's electrically, the house is electric heat. It had electric heat. So we talk about the two surviving roommates, okay, Bethany and Dylan. For someone to stoop to a level of going after them and drawing conclusions without facts, it just takes it to another level of I want to be nice here, but it takes it to another level of being a scumbag. And the reason I say that is because most people that make those accusations and point the fingers at people like this, they have no idea what goes on and what type of how difficult it is to deliver that message to the victims' families.
Yes.
And look, we went through this with all the different cases, with Stephen Stearns, with Wade Wilson, with Chris Watts. You still, for crying out loud, from 2018, you still have people trying to degrade and put Shanann
Savannah Soto.
Yeah, Savannah Soto.
Oof, that was bad.
This kind of disdain and this type of hatred and this type of nastiness is what exists on the internet, because keyboard warriors will always be out there. I see somebody in the green room wearing a green shirt, and it's Mr. Duty Ed Wallace. Ed,
you woke up. Hi. Papa
No
Frank.
drinks.
I'm in my bed.
We're gonna put you to sleep.
Ed, let's reel this thing back in, because I mean, there's so much hate, and there's so many people that are pointing the fingers at DM, at Dylan and Bethany. There's so many people who draw the conclusions about their actions or their inactions. I just want to get your thoughts, because you are a man of reason, Ed Wallace.
Yeah, well, sometimes I listen to these things and I see, what is the motive of these individuals and why do they do this? Okay. And some of these people, they have like a vested interest in this. It's kind of weird. How emotionally involved they get into this. And it's more voyeuristic than anything else, in my opinion. And, there's no reason to be this super critical or hypercritical of these victims and how they acted on this 911 call. Like I said, I've seen this in my career, right? I had Brooklyn College in my precinct, and I also had when I was in NSU, I had King's College. I had a bunch of colleges, and then later on in crime scene, I actually processed crime scenes, two of which were in my alma mater, Pratt Institute. I had to go to my old college and process crime scenes. So you think about it. Let's be honest, and I'm not trying to be critical here. Okay, the maturity level of these kids in college is not that high. Okay. They're not thinking about any of this stuff, right? They're not being prepared for any of these evil things that occur in our society. Okay, they're living in a pie in the sky utopia in their college campuses, and they're worried about their education and their testings and the midterms and the finals and where they're going to party with, the next party, where's the next party, that kind of thing. They're not thinking about any of this. All right. So, when it hits them, when it hits this close to home, okay, that's it.
Yeah. Ed, I wanted to circle back one more time to you, and then I'll go to Ant and OB with this question. This is something that we talked about on the transcripts when they were released. Why is there no mention? And Ed, I'm going to you first because you are the CSI. We talked about the blood and the dripping of the foundation. Kathleen Mabbitt, the coroner, talked about a gruesome, bloody crime scene. Why no utterances in the background about, oh my God, we saw a lot of blood? We know that Hunter was trying to shelter and try to protect the girls from.
You need to get out. You need to get out.
Yeah.
Get out. And heard in his voice that
he was hyperventilating.
He was freaking the fuck out. And yeah,
Right.
so the thing of it is people even in the chat and people in the comment section on dutyron.com asking why no mention of the blood. And I know that's going to happen now because we didn't hear anybody talk about it on the 911.
Well, they could barely make a coherent sentence. Okay. Right. They were all hyperventilating, and they were in shock and information overload. Okay. Now, what is the body's response to this? Okay. There's been plenty of studies on this, right? We've heard the tunnel vision studies and so forth. When you get into those kind of horrific environments, and your mind is being overwhelmed by all the horrific things that you are seeing now, right, and maybe even smelling, who knows exactly what was going on there. And you can tell by the way they're hyperventilating and all of this, that your body's defense mechanism here is your brain starts to narrow down, and what you see starts to narrow down as well. You start to lose your peripheral vision, and then you just focus on this very narrow area to kind of shield yourself from the horrors, right? Or in many cases, like in combat situations, they talk about the tunnel vision and so forth. It is true. You focus on what you perceive to be the biggest threat, and you lose sight of potential other threats that are beyond your peripheral. And this is your brain's way of trying to protect itself.
100%. Glad you made that mention. Sarge, over to you.
Ed, I'm going to get technical the way you are with the forensics. It's called auto loop. I took that training in the Detective Bureau up in the Bronx, where Dutyron would know this too, and you would know this, Ed, where you clear rooms and you go in when you're doing search warrants and firearms. And I just Googled it to make sure I got it accurate. We call it auto loop, tunnel vision, and it's an abbreviation for observe, orient, decide, and act. And basically, for those who don't know, you get tunnel vision where it hinders the observing and orient. So it's the phase, those two phases lead to poor decision making and poor actions. So the first two O's of auto loop, OODA, is what happened to these young college kids, because right, you're hanging out, you're having drinks, you're having tacos, food truck. You don't expect to wake up to everyone murdered around you. I was shocked not to hear blood, but I've been to plenty of crime scenes that were very horrific, and no one mentioned blood on the 911 call, and it shocked me when I showed up. So I know that tunnel vision, like Ed said, it's totally a shocking experience, and it's so tunnel vision. Some of you might say, oh, I don't remember where I put my keys. You were probably in the heat of the moment. You had to use the bathroom. You were running around. That's your moment of tunnel vision. Now imagine waking up to a whole bunch of dead people around you. You just totally black out. So I think that they couldn't orient, especially like Ed said, they're college kids having fun. They're not police officers at work expecting this.
Well, they didn't articulate to the dispatcher any other victims.
Right.
They just spoke of one.
Yes.
Okay. But it doesn't negate what they saw and what they tried to transmit to the dispatcher.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, it's not the dispatcher. Life safety comes first. The criminal investigation comes second. So when you're being told as a dispatcher that you got a woman down that's unconscious, and she's asking, is she breathing? Is she breathing?
He said no.
Right. Right. And then she said no. Right. Then he talks about the defibrillator and so forth. So the dispatcher's focus is on that one victim, not what happened at 4 o'clock in the morning and some suspicious guy that was entered the house. Yeah. Right. And so.
Over
do you
to
think
you.
she should have walked them to CPR?
I want to hear Oblivious Benson's take on this, because I know you did a little bit of. I just now went back and reviewed some of your live stream, and I saw that you did play. I saw this up on the screen when I scrolled back to yours. So you definitely did a little take on this. So your thoughts as it pertains to Hunter and how he acted and how the girls acted and the folks from across the street next door. I mean,
so. I have a lot to say. I'm going to try to condense it, but I'm going to go bullet point by bullet point. First of all, for those of you saying, why didn't she mention the blood? Why didn't she say anything about the blood? Because there is no she. None of the she's saw the blood. They were on the bottom floor. So none of the she's saw the blood. In fact, the way that you know who saw the blood, who found the bodies, and what body they found is on the very first page of the motion in limine RE 911 call. The very document that has the 911 transcript, if you look at the top, it explains in great detail that Hunter found Xana. How did he find her? Mid 911 call. He walks up the stairs. He sees Xana. He immediately turns around. You hear it in the call. Don't go in there. He is now in shock. And while in shock and protecting the girls from what he just saw, he gets on the phone. He says, I can't talk to them, because he's clearly very, very shaken. Why? Because he just experienced a thing called trauma. Not only did he experience trauma, that's his best friend. This isn't Hunter, Ethan's twin. This is his best friend. So he just found his best friend's girlfriend in the hallway. And from the look of it and what's explained in all the court docs is he's looking at her feet, laying with her head far away from him, and he can see from below her. He can touch her, and he likely may have been the one who left the blood going downstairs on the banister. Thank you to a woman named Mitty for pointing that out. Hence him being ruled out. He may have touched her to see if she was alive. Now, it doesn't say that in the motion, but this is a very good explanation for why they are not going to exclude that. But it's very interesting to me that at the very top, it says who found Xana, who it was that found Xana, who was the only one who went inside. And it's interesting to me that he was guarding the girls clearly by saying, don't go in there. And he is in shock. So with that said, why didn't he mention the blood? First of all, he could barely talk. He handed the phone off. Second of all, he's got girls crying all around him, freaking out on the verge of passing out. He is a country boy. Ma'am, you don't want to see none of that. That's the type of kid Hunter is. He did them a favor by not freaking out and keeping calm. Keep in mind, a lot of these kids, their parents grew up as EMTs, nurses, doctors. They understand, even though they are in shock and it could be protective, they likely understand, let's not freak out right now until we know what all of that is. Here's another thing. When I was getting stabbed and when I was being attacked, I started screaming my full name, my social security number. I said free beer. And I also said a lot of other things that made absolutely no sense. I gave them my address. You can't always control how you react in a situation like that. It's very hard to talk when you're in a situation like that. Did I tell 911 one time that I'm bleeding or covered in blood? No, I didn't. In fact, the people whose house I was bleeding in informed me, bleed wherever you want. It's being foreclosed. And they didn't tell 911 about the amount of blood. 911 was pretty pissed off when they got there. They needed to know that information. I didn't even realize that it was real yet. I had been stabbed and refused to believe it. I was in denial. Yeah. But I saw it. I saw the knife and I still couldn't choke it out. It took hours. So when people say, how do these youth who have likely never seen a crime scene before, how do we justify their fear? They just saw a man in their house.
Right. And we know they've never seen a crime scene. And in the beginning, before you joined, everything that you said about Hunter, being Ethan's best friend and his girlfriend's, that if you're his best friend, you're best friends with Xana too. That shock factor is real, and not making mention of the blood is a lot of people getting caught up on it because they're not really looking at the full picture. But let's listen to this audio where he is breathing, and really it's sounding like, again, Ed, you said it well. That tunnel vision comes into play, and he's just trying to breathe. He's
hyperventilating.
He was probably on the verge of passing out because of what he witnessed when he saw Xana face down. I believe that was her positioning as part of the.
Before you play it, though, Ron, just let's not forget, when the dispatcher asked her to go check, and then she said, "Come on, we got to go check. We got to go upstairs." She said, "We got to go upstairs and check." Okay, so that tells you where they were. Okay,
they were down.
Right. He said, "No, don't."
First floor, right?
Lock them.
Yeah, because they might have been trying to go back in after he was coming down, and he was like, "No, you're not going. Stay. Get out." So let's.
What's wrong? He's not waking up.
Okay.
I kind of heard him say Xana there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
got my
he says Xana.
Yep.
Okay.
He's not waking up.
Okay. One moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
So he's just trying to wake her up right there.
and now he's back in front of her and she's looking at him and like, what's wrong? So she's got enough wherewithal to know that there's something up by the look on his face that he's presenting to her.
Well, he's also trying to wake her up, and then he has to check to see if she's breathing. So I believe he came back down halfway from the stairs, according to what it seems to signify in there. And then they said, check if he's breathing a little bit later, or if she's breathing, and then he has to go back up and really check.
He's got to
Because
go back.
before he's just yelling for her.
Right. All right, let's listen.
Getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
Like whisper in there, like I was trying to make out what was said there, but it sounded like maybe somebody trying to talk, but because they're in such shock that they're not actually able to get the words out. If you guys know what I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. There is that it was a communication error that there was person was trying to say something but couldn't say it because of all of the everything, all of the shock that was going through. Now he's saying, come on, let's go. Get out, get out, get out.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay. Sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
OB, for clarity, is that is that the same? This is not Ethan now, the person that gets on and says hello, right?
No, you mean Hunter? It's Hunter.
I mean Hunter.
So I believe the way it looks like in the call, I believe that could either be, I'm not entirely sure, that could be her hyperventilating, but it also could be him, hands the phone back, she whispers some stuff, hands it back, and he doesn't want to take it. But that's him talking. He had just come down the stairs and he's in shock.
Yeah.
I don't know. He may have taken the phone with him up the stairs, which would explain all the rustling.
Right.
It's a little hard to tell.
And the breathing.
So for Hunter, like for me, it's an extreme contrast to what we just heard of the distressed breathing to go from that to that. So Ed, do you agree with that? Ed, do you agree with that?
Say that again, Ron.
I'm saying initially we were saying that this could have been Hunter with that distressed breathing, but OB is saying that it's not. It was DM.
I think it was one of the girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought it was a deeper kind of, the way I heard it, I thought it was him.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I thought so too at first, but then when I was looking at it, I did wonder if maybe the phone's handed off to him, he hands it back, but also it sounds like he could be carrying it up the stairs because you hear like a click, click.
Yeah.
The noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to listen to it and analyze it a couple of times over, but nonetheless, this is, heartbreaking to hear. It's an experience that, that these three will have to be in probably therapy for many years and maybe never get over this. Especially Hunter for seeing what he saw, and Ed. Yeah. They described the coroner described Xana's injuries as her fingers being severed. And the amount of blood that was lost between her and her boyfriend in that one room. And we don't know the totality of this, if he in fact did go in and see everything. But at no time did he mention an additional victim. He just said one. So it makes me think that he did not peek his head in that room. But this is all speculation.
After seeing the first one, I didn't think he wanted to have anything to do with checking for the others.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be in post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, without a doubt, they need therapy for that. And well, I know on another note that the defense has a new defense now. They have a new, they have a new alibi. Okay, no longer was it he was just driving around, taking a drive, and looking at the moon. Now he was framed.
Which, by the way, can I say, everybody says, oh, what a dumb alibi. Who looks at the stars? I just want to point out that visual snow account has been authenticated. That is Bryan's account. If all you see, and I'm not even, this is not a joke. If all you see are specks and stars, why would you want to look at more? Like, if it's ruining your life to see visual snow, you know what I mean? Like, a blanket of stars would not be thrilling to you. This would actually probably hurt your head. Like, he explains having migraines, how looking at the sky is not fun. Like, the alibi he himself debunks in his own topics threads back in 2012. So don't tell me you're looking at the stars. He's got more accounts under various disturbing and, in addition to dating websites, then he's not on a single hiking trail website.
Don't give up what we're going to do as a show. Don't give it all up.
Hikers and people who do the type of things that he explains have yoga websites, health websites, hiking websites, nutrition, anything in their history that would signify this type of behavior. He has nothing.
Yeah. Rochelle says a good point. Yeah. Cindy Holenbeck, who is from the area, she's from the Pullman, Washington area, and has been a guest on the show, says, thank you, Opie. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Also, can I say something?
Of course, you could say anything.
No, I don't want to distract, because this is such a good conversation. I'm learning so much. Thank you, Obi, for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.
As always, and breaking down every detail. It makes me pay attention because I go fast. Someone mentioned about who was sleeping, who went back to sleep for 8 hours.
That was Dylan.
Someone said in the chat, I understand about victim shaming. I think because we're being very technical here and just breaking down the call. Someone made a comment that, okay, yeah, she went back to bed for 8 hours. I've seen, working in the ambulance, even before becoming a cop, I've seen people who've had a roommate passed out or overdosed. I used to see this a lot with overdose, and they were out all night having a good time. The roommate wake up, think they're sleeping, or even if it was something bad, they go back to bed thinking it's a bad dream, or they were still intoxicated. I wasn't there. I'm not her defense lawyer. It's not about a defense, but maybe she was really intoxicated or just super tired, if assuming that story is true. So we're not victim shaming. We're just looking at it from different angles.
But also, her phone died. She even says it. She says, my phone's about to die. Right. And then there's no additional phone records. So with that said, it looks like her phone just died. The only people saying that she was even asleep that entire time are people on the internet who don't know her.
Hey, OB, I moved you up to the top because I didn't want the comment to cover you, so I put myself.
Thank
you.
Oh,
I get to Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, so I'm letting the comment cover me, but this one's directed to Ed Wallace because you and I have had a discussion about this. Scott number 5 says maybe Bryan Kohberger or the defendant. Let's be fair here. The defendant, maybe the defendant was too exhausted to kill Dylan Mortensen, just wanted to get out of the house quickly. And you talked about
I've mentioned that in the past. Yeah.
This
he expended a lot. Well, the killer expended a lot of energy to murder 4 people with a knife. Okay,
in a short period of time.
Right, and it's very physical. Yeah, I could see it. At that point, being winded. Now, it's also funny because, now finding out about alleged vacuum that was in his possession, if it was a vacuum at all. But if it was a vacuum, did anybody hear it running as if he was trying to clean up a crime scene or something? Yeah. And if it was a bristle vacuum, right? It was, I believe they recovered at his campus apartment the bristle vacuum or components of it, like the cartridges and everything. Now, bristle makes a small little vacuum that's a wet vacuum.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know. I'd be interested to see if that was in fact the case.
Well, Ed, we know on December 30th in the Pocono Mountains in his home community, Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, he was still cleaning. He was still cleaning that goddamn car on December 30th. These murders happened on November 13th. So quite a few weeks later, this guy is in the middle of the night still cleaning up with those nitrile gloves that you actually brought out a box of them on our live stream and was demonstrating the difference in the gloves. Ed did a whole glove comparison, but so Bryan Kohberger is someone who's meticulous with his cleanup, right? And that cross-country trip that he took in a very obscure way, he didn't take a direct route from Washington straight across the United States as you or I would take. It wasn't an efficient route. It was a fucked up route because he went down south and then came back up and then went across. So what was the reason for that route? Was it for time? Was it an opportunity to get rid of was it something that he needed to do or was going to do? We don't know. But December 30th, when he's collared, they move in on him because he's putting stuff in his neighbor's trash. He's doing all kinds of fugazi stuff with gloves on at 4:00 in the morning. Flashbangs were thrown. A no-knock search warrant was already had. They executed it, and the rest is history.
Ed, I have a question.
Yes.
At all his stops cross country, would they have gone to those gas stations and searched the garbages and do,
They better
did I
have
miss something in the episode? I'm assuming they did, but would they have gone to every state?
I would imagine, they would have downloaded the infotainment system and the phones and got the entire route. And then they would have, I believe they were under surveillance. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe they were under surveillance. And then if they would have stopped in a gas station or so forth, they would have pulled video surveillance tapes. They would have canvassed the gas station to see who was working, to see if any conversations may have occurred between BK and the employees at the gas station. If he threw anything away in the garbage or a dumpster or at the gas stations or used the bathrooms.
Right. Yes. I would also like to add into this conversation is, as a seasoned investigator, I personally would like to know, and I hope at trial we get to see and hear about this, that route that they have him on with his cellular data and so forth, where he shuts the phone off. But after, when he takes his route, that obscure route back to Pullman, and then comes back, was that entire route, that length of that entire route, scanned with drone footage and ran through that locate system? Were any of the bodies of water, lakes or ponds along that route, were they dredged, checked out? Like, we want to find this murder weapon. You want to find that knife. And Ed, you and I had private conversations offline about this, but I damn well hope that the Idaho State Police or somebody that has the resources, because you need a lot of manpower and resources to do this, looked at that route and said,
Right.
is there any possibilities that he could have flinged a knife outside of that car? If you have a definitive route, why not search it?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Maybe
going to
we'll
be
find out
maybe.
in trial.
That could
Gonna
be
be-
why the Amazon records are so pertinent, because depending on if he bought it on Amazon, and it's likely from, whether it's from a shop in China or whether it's made in America, it's going to have unique features on it. And just by the sheath alone, they're going to be able to tell which knife it is, likely what kind of carvings it might have in it. Is it the Marine one or the one that says Army? They're going to be able to figure that out. And I do think that there could be a situation one day where perhaps they are currently doing that right now. I think that they're going to be looking up until the moment of trial. There could be a moment when they find that knife, and I want to know then what.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because she's been AK has been AT rather has been trying to suppress all of his Google search records and his Amazon records and all of that stuff. And she was trying to, claim during her argument saying that, it's the AI and it's an algorithm. The algorithms don't pop up on their own, and start sending you commercials and advertisements. You have to search something. And that now, once they saw that you searched that particular item, they're going to start sending you commercials and advertisements for things like that.
Right. Once this trial kicks off, there's going to be a lot of oohs and ah moments, because Ann Taylor is trying to get all of the evidence that is devastating and that will totally kill her defense of Bryan Kohberger thrown out. But that's what a defense attorney is supposed to do. You're supposed to protect your client. So all of this stuff, all of this shit that she's trying to throw against the wall that's not sticking, the reason she's putting these motions in is because it's devastating to her case. Of proving that her client is innocent. The state has a mountain of evidence as it pertains to his online searches, his online purchases that we haven't heard about yet. And Ed, you and I privately talked about this. Once this trial kicks off in Ada County, there's going to be a lot of humble pie for a lot of people to be eaten. And I am going to serve it up, because I got 50 or 100 pies ready. If you want it warm, you let me know. If you want it cold, we can serve it to you cold. But Ed,
revenge is a dish best served cold.
There you go. Humble pie, cold.
Today's pie day.
Yeah. Very good, Sergeant. Very good. OB, I know you have more to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask Ed, do you know, I remember, I recall reading in something that they did a 3D mapping of the crime scene.
Yes.
Do you know if that's for sure?
Yes, several. I mean, it came out about when they were making the decision to take the house down.
Okay. So the
defense did theirs too.
Okay, so they both got 3D mapping. So they're going to have the same images. My question is 3D mapping. You teach people how to do that stuff, right?
Right.
So,
and I just did it. I was just in Salt Lake City doing that this past week.
So can they essentially hire their own 3D mapping guy? And I'm curious, has there ever been a case where they're like, my 3D map's better than yours? Or like, is that even a thing? Like, it should be the exact same, right?
Well, no, it's not going to be the same, because the crime scene had been cleaned up by the time the defense expert got in.
It's the same technology. But
yeah.
If you look at the Idaho State crime labs, we saw the females, Ed, right? They had the Faro 3D laser scanners set up on tripods. This was when it was a fresh crime scene, and they did it. And they went inside the house with the blood and everything there, and how everything was. And Ed, you know this because you process over 2,500 crime scenes. There's photographs, there's video of the actual victims in the locations they were found before.
And the 3D scans.
So
and then the AI came back and did their own, so they can build an actual physical model.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's why it doesn't matter that they tore the house down, in my opinion. A lot of people hate on me for that, but it's like, listen.
Well, I respectfully disagree. You know, I love you,
disagree.
but I respectfully disagree with that.
But
I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it,
not
because
have it.
you're not going to get the smells. You're not going to get the sounds on the
don't
3D.
they have a weird thing there where they don't let, like, I thought there were some weird jury rules where they weren't going to be allowed to take them there anyway. So that's why I'm like, who cares?
Well,
But a judge
I
can
don't
overrule
think
that.
Made to be broken.
Oh,
Mhm.
judge could. Oh, okay, that's a good point.
Like
Well, then
Ed
now
said,
I'm
you'd
mad
rather
about
have
it. Yeah, now I'm on your side then. Okay. I thought
Yeah.
that there was a weird rule there where they're like, it's not quite an OJ situation, but they were debating it. I'm tearing through these. I'm trying to get through all the motions, but there was a whole chunk about it. And
Yeah.
I was under the impression that there was a situation where the school bought it and they wanted to use the property, but other people were saying, hey, listen, you know, you've already got all these 3D scans. You don't necessarily need this at all. And then simultaneously, the jury can't come visit it. And I'm like, well, why not? So I got a few more to read. I was just hoping maybe you could tell me straight up, but I guess we don't. The jury's out on that.
Yeah.
Like
No pun
literally.
I mean,
intended.
I've had
Literally.
several cases where the jury's asked to go to the crime scene and they were taken. You know, the court got a bus, put the jury on the bus, took them to the crime scene, and then, you know, people had to stand around and watch them and, you know, protect them and see what they were doing in the crime scene. You know, they were taking notes. They were allowed to take notes, but they weren't allowed to ask questions. They weren't allowed to touch things and move things. They weren't allowed to create evidence.
Okay.
Right?
Are they
You
allowed
can-
to pull from it later?
What's that?
Are they allowed to pull from it later? Like if there's a question of forensics and they're like, now we need to go back through and go under the floorboards to see if there actually is blood on this part. Are they allowed to do that mid-trial?
To ask
Like-
if something
like
was
us.
done?
Yeah, like if they miss.
Well, in certain
something.
jurisdictions, the jurors can ask questions. Like in New York, they weren't allowed to ask questions. Now, grand jury, that's a different story. A grand jury could ask all kinds of questions, but a trial jury in New York can't. But in others, like as we've seen in some of these high-profile cases, the jurors get to ask questions.
Not having the house creates a lot of good stuff for the defense, a lot of doubt. There's a lot
Yeah, but
of
the
doubt, a
defense
lot of
agreed to
questions.
it.
I know,
But the
I'm just
defense
saying
agreed
for
to
a
it.
jury. Don't you think as a jury member, I would want to touch and feel and know or have access? I would start doubting.
No.
I wonder if
Well,
it would be
depending on the
weird
evidence.
though, because the jury would be going to a cleaned up house. I wonder if that would actually favor the defense, seeing the house all pristine.
Yeah. So now I sent Ron a video a while ago of training that we do. We do a virtual reality training with our for our SWAT teams, and we take my Faro laser scanner and we'll scan hospitals, schools, different areas like that, and then we run our SWAT team with the virtual reality goggles on, and we create an avatar of the SWAT officers. So, you know, we scan the SWAT officers and then we put a vest on them that has all these sensors on it, and we make them virtually clear the hospital or clear the college campus for active shooter training. And if they get shot, they get electrical zap, and then their gun won't work from that point on. They can't pull the trigger anymore after that. So
it's Call of Duty. You guys reinvented Call of Duty?
Yes.
But,
in
yeah,
real
but
life
you know,
person.
Call of Duty,
yeah,
Ron.
yeah.
But guess what? You know, with virtual reality goggles on, these jurors up in Ada County, when this trial kicks off, if the prosecution wants to present the 3D laser scans and the walkthrough of virtual reality walkthrough, we could potentially see that. And I would say there's a better than 60% chance that we will hear about that in this trial. Ed, any thoughts on that?
I think the defense will object to it, to be honest with you, because I think they'd be fearful that it would sway the jury towards the prosecution, and they just rather they deal with I'm sorry, guys. They would rather just deal with a physical model as opposed to having the juries virtually walk through it. I would prefer them virtually walk through it.
Right. because they get to see in real time and they get to see the real horrific nature of this crime scene.
They'll see the bodies as they lay there. They'll see all the blood spatter. They'll see all of that that's captured by the scans. It's all there.
Yeah.
And they can walk around the bodies. Right.
And for those of you who are listening in the chat, we did a live stream as it pertains to this with Luke Hall. He was the representative for Faro 3D laser scan. He worked for the Faro Industries, and we actually showed, and the video got labeled for what did it get labeled for? It had to be 18. You had to be 18 or over to view it. We showed the crime scene in Chicago, I believe it was, in a barbershop where there was 3 or 4 murders inside a barbershop, and he had permission from the victims' families and through Faro 3D laser scanning company to show this as training, and we let it fly. We let that 3D laser scan fly, and we showed it to everybody with a disclaimer, with a shock value disclaimer. And let me tell you something. I was surprised when I saw it, how realistic and how real life it was. We walked through the whole crime scene on a live stream, and I'll link it below in the description. You guys can go and check it out, but just be forewarned, you're going to see blood, you're going to see guts, you're going to see weapons on the floor. And this crime scene was exactly how it was left by the perpetrators. And with that 3D laser scanning, and if I was wearing virtual reality goggles, headsets, I mean, it would be like you were there. The only thing you wouldn't get the smells, as Ed said. You won't hear the creaking of the floors. You won't get a great lay of the land because you can't hold on to things. You walk through it, and it's unbelievable. Yeah. All right, guys, it's an hour and 20 minutes. I don't like to go past that. I know, OB, you're into those marathons. I love you for that because there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'll link her channel in the description. Everyone go over and check out Oblivious Benson. We're going to be doing, I'm going to let everybody in on it. We're going to be doing some dives into Bryan Kohberger's freaky online searches and some of the avenues that he walked down prior to the
I'll show you his rap song.
The alleged murders at 1122 King Road on that faithful day. Again, I want to thank Ed for joining. He traveled. He was in Utah doing Army training for the whole week, and he was in bed. I told him we were going live, and he's like, I was
lying in bed listening to you guys. I said, and then I commented, I said, I'm going to jump on now. OB is here. I got to get on.
He's Ed in a bed, you guys. It's Elf on a Shelf, Ed in a bed. There he is. Live, laugh, love, Ed.
Hey, I don't think I was fair to the chat. We said we were going to take some questions, so we didn't take the questions. Hashtag Dutyron, hashtag Ed. Ed's like, oh my God, he's doing it. Hashtag Ant. Hashtag take 5 minutes. Ed, you are a warrior. You can handle this. I'm confident. Look at this comment. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ed. Awesome panel, says Michelle and Renee. Thank you. Let's see. Any questions? Let's let them rip. Let them rip. And I'm not saying a fart. Just let them rip.
Speaking of farts.
If Ed did one right now, I'd laugh so hard.
Speaking of farts, I saw a great video today with dogs and farts. It was hilarious.
What happened?
Share it with us, Ed.
Tell us.
Well, no, it's on YouTube. Just I gotta go.
Okay. You'll have to give me the link. I'll link it in the description. A lot of people saying thank you, Dutyron, Ed, and OB. Amazing Ant. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Also, they're mad about they want the drapes back, Ed. You got to get the drapes back.
The Moroccan drapes.
I don't have
the Moroccan drapes.
Denise says,
you got the NYPD truck behind you. You look like Law and Order cool.
That's her cruiser that she worked in. That's
PSA 7, baby. PSA 7.
Thank you.
Come get a ride along.
That means public service area, aka projects. No disrespect.
Police service, not public service area. Police service.
I mean, police. Area. Look at this. Who's tired here? Public service. We
thank
service
God
the
I'm
public.
Quick, Sergeant. Sarge, give me a star card. So the bottom line is
now it's time to coop. Tell everyone what cooping means.
Sleeping.
Oh.
Sleeping.
All right. Cameras, courtroom. Ed, I'll go to you first. I'll give my opinion. Cameras in the courtroom, Ada County. Judge Hippler, is he going to allow the cameras? Ed, you first.
I think so.
OB?
Yeah.
Amazing Aunt?
I actually hope not.
And I
don't
say,
think so.
okay, and I say, F yeah, they will have the
You
cameras. in.
are? Okay. I hope not for the victims, for the living and, for the trauma. I'm thinking about it holistically and mentally.
There'll be
But I'm
one pool,
confused because half wants it and half doesn't.
there'll be one pool camera. Here's my prediction, and it will be court TV.
Court TV, yeah. I agree with that.
Yep. All right. Listen, no questions. Ed, you got off easy, so I'll sign you 28. We can leave now. Barbara Young says, do you think they have data from Bryan's car? We had we had 2 whole shows with our auto crimes expert, right? We did 2 shows on this about the data, and they're going to have a lot of information about that car. There wasn't a infotainment system inside that model, year, and make vehicle because he had the shittiest, lowest end one. It wasn't a Elantra Limited. If it was an Elantra Limited, we'd have the infotainment system. But trust me, I did a lot of homework.
Hey, I have a Hyundai.
Yeah, but you don't have the limited either. You got the low end.
Dutyron got me to buy the car that I have now 14 years ago, the GLS.
Jennifer Nobles from California says you should do a poll on the camera question. Listen, if you think there's going to be cameras in the courtroom, press a 1. If you don't think that the cameras in the courtroom, press a 2. We'll do that right here. This is like the low bare bones, low budget polling. Let me know what you guys think. A lot of number 1s popping up immediately. A lot of 1s. Look at this. Look at the chat.
Also, don't forget in the warrants, they requested all of the footage from the restaurant that 2 of the girls worked at, and I believe they received it. And this was a vegan restaurant where Bryan had supposedly eaten and pinged at. That's going to be big on the, I think, stalking and on the intent front could be kind of a big deal. People seem to be forgetting all the places he happened to be.
Yeah,
where there is footage.
And in fact, if he was downloading pictures from their Instagram and had them on his device, there was the other that that was more reporting. Hey, for those of you in the chat, I want to make this a little fun. I want you guys to see something because Ed reacts to this immediately.
It's the car.
Right,
Ed, let's hop in the cruiser.
That's it.
Let's hop in.
Ed, you'd have to drive because she's a sergeant. You'd have to drive, Ed.
I've driven cops that couldn't drive, so I'll drive you.
Policeman give you no break. Not even soldier man, I give you no break.
All right,
bad boys. What you gonna do?
Hot Ed.
I'm not even joking now. Cindy is right about this because she went to that restaurant and she actually took video inside.
Oh, they had vegan pizza.
Yeah, she lives there. She's local. I know her son went to school there. So they did have pizza, but they did cater to vegan. There was a vegan side to the.
I apologize. I see vegan on the menu. I just leave. I just assume I'm not welcome here.
Wait, Ron. I got to do something for OB.
Okay.
What?
Lieutenant Diane. Diane.
The forest
ice cream.
Okay.
He's got magic legs.
All right. Oh my God. I want to thank everybody for being here. Oblivious Benson, Sarge, Amazing Aunt.
Public service area.
OB, Kegels, OB, Kegels.
Too late for me.
Miss yourself.
Too late for me.
Like him. Oh my God.
All right.
Mama says.
Oh my God, dude.
Ice cream. That's my boat.
Ed is wide awake and I'm feeding. We reverse roles.
Yes, we did.
Just like Forrest Gump, it kills me. I'm gonna start crying. Oh my God.
Sometimes there's just not enough rocks.
Wow.
I lean on I lean against your back and you lean against mine, and neither of us will get stuck in the mud, Bubba.
She taught me how to read, and I taught her how to dangle.
I'm listening. I'm losing this whole
Dutyron, you're driving me. We're getting the H out of here.
Yeah, get me out of here. All
I'm not
folks,
scratching them.
I want to thank everybody for joining. I was just trying to find something, and you guys are just killing it right now. Thank you all for being here in the chat. If you're not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up. Share it out onto your social media platform. Subscribe to Oblivious Benson. And also, I want to say thank you to the replay viewers. You guys are awesome. The live chatters, the moderators, and everybody who's left super chats and supports us through Buy Me the Cup of Coffee app. You guys and girls are unbelievable. So I want to say thank you. And thank you to everyone who's left positive messages for my cancer being eradicated and taken out. And, Ed, I know you wanted to be there with us last night, but you were doing the Army training out with the boys and girls for dinner. But thank you to everybody. I really, really appreciate it. Oblivious always checking in with me, and you guys are all great friends. So thank you. On behalf of Crime Time with Dutyron and Ed Wallace, we want to say good night. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.
Bye, everybody.
Take
Bye.
care.
Ciao for now.
Have a
Be
nice
safe.
day.
Son is Diane.